a yacht big enough to have its own swimming pool. What you need is dream come true money. Luckily, tonight's Euro Millions jackpot is £37 million. Now that's dream come true money. Euro Millions from National Lottery. Play on app, online and in store. Estimated jackpot, account terms, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Lola should be saying a virtual hello to her new clients right now, but instead she's saying... Awkward. Why, Lola? Why set up a fancy new loft office if your Wi-Fi doesn't reach it? Never fear. With BT Complete Wi-Fi, you'll be back with a bing. Only BT gives you reliable Wi-Fi in every room or a £100 money-back guarantee. Why choose anyone else? BT Beyond Limits.
Up to 3 discs to guarantee 10 Mbps in every room or £100 of your next bill. Terms apply.
Love your skin. Love your hair. Love your nails. Perfectil delivers nutritional support from within, including zinc to help you maintain normal skin, hair and nails. Perfectil, the science of beauty. From Vitobiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company. From Boots, pharmacies and Vitobiotics.com.
This is a story about pet insurance. Bonnie, the black lab, loves to smell flowers. But one day she took a snuffle too far and got stung by a bee. Luckily, her family didn't get stung by a vet's bill because Pets in a Pickle had Bonnie covered. For pet insurance policies as unique as they are, go to petsinApickle.co.uk.
At Morrison's this Christmas, packs of British veg are only 3 for £1. Choose from potatoes, carrots, parsnips, sprouts and swede. Morrison's, baking Christmas special. Majority of stores subject to availability. Excludes online. 40p each. Sprouts and parsnips 500 grams. Carrots 1 kilogram. Potatoes 2 kilograms. Offer ends 24th of December 2020.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with James O'Brien.
Well, it's 11:51. Let's head straight over to Sweden. Shahid is there. I think we've got to the bottom of it, really. And it's, as ever, it's not very what's the word you want? Cheering news. But you know, it's plenty of people who looked at Sweden at the beginning of this and saw statistics that suggested perhaps the worst privations of lockdowns could be avoided. Many of them are perfectly decent people, deserving of to be wrong and you don't change, that the problems really kick in. And that's why this piece by Neil O'Brien, the Conservative MP in today's New Statesman, is so powerful. You know, the headline: Sweden's COVID have exposed the myths of the lockdown skeptics. But given that the lockdown skeptics in my profession were very often also the climate change skeptics, and indeed the EU skeptics, Euro skeptics even, then unfortunately I suspect that Mr. O'Brien's optimism about them now being quiet and recognising the error of their ways is a little bit optimistic. I'd suggest I'm probably better qualified in that field as a student of people proved horribly wrong about European Union membership, climate science, or now COVID-19 than he is. But hey ho, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Umeo? Shahid?
Yes, it's Umeo, yeah, that's how we pronounce it. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. What are you hearing? What do you want to tell us?
So it's been very interesting, especially from my perspective, being a public health student that started my course in Sweden in 2019, September. And right from the beginning, actually, I was skeptical of the strategy that was apparently being pursued, which was one of herd immunity. Because herd immunity, then, from a technical perspective, it's a result, it's an outcome, it's not an intervention that you apply. It's not a policy, no.
Yes, I understand.
So when you vaccinate, so when you vaccinate your population, the disease is able to spread from a person to another person, and then that's what's called herd immunity. But it's not something you can achieve by infecting your population with a disease, not to mention the ethical aspect it raises in itself.
And Anders Tegnell's reputation was fairly good, though, going into this crisis, I think. I mean, obviously, nobody in this country had ever heard his name.
Yes, apparently so. I mean, I don't know of him personally, or in the sense of a professional, but apparently he's worked in Ebola in Africa, so
yes.
He didn't have the reputation yet.
And why? I mean, I don't know how much attention you pay to things over here, but how do you explain this curious reverence for Sweden from people in the UK, people particularly in public life, in the media and in politics. They kept, I presume that they've stopped, but I'd be surprised if they all have, telling us that Sweden got everything absolutely right, even as your death toll is 10 times more of your nearest neighbours and your economic impact is worse. Why do you think some Brits, a certain type of Brit, got so hung up on Sweden?
But I think you're absolutely right over there that it is kind of appealing to a certain kind of person. And I think that's more to do with ideology than anything to do with science, even within Sweden. And that may be the reason that an ideology of having some sort of exceptionalist attitude puts you kind of above any wrongdoing.
Or it is simply a real distaste for being told what to do, which is...
Yes, and that as well. So freedom trumps everything.
Like a permanent adolescence, perhaps, would be a nice way of describing it.
In a way, yes. I also found something, if I may,
yes, you may.
Sort of topic a little bit quite interesting, which you mentioned, a phrase called binary absolution.
Yes.
Which is, binary...
absolutism.
Which is absolutism.
Yeah.
Lockdowns versus the economy, or lockdown versus herd immunity open approach, which are both, I think, false dichotomies, because I think you mentioned this, having a large proportion of your population die off is no good for the economy, and lockdowns are not good either.
Exactly.
And I believe the best policy is something that's been adopted by South Korea and as well as Vietnam, which is mass test and trace the population and control the virus spreading. You need to break the infection chain.
Yes.
And that's not possible. I mean, you just cannot. It's never been done by herd immunity.
No, I know, and you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Plenty of people to that phrase, herd immunity. But the more you thought about it, the more you would have, I think, if you had your head screwed on right, you would have concluded that, well, you put it best, I think, Shahid, that it's a destination. It's not a roadmap. It's a result, not a policy. Strange times, isn't it? But you know, I guess the vaccine renders a lot of these conversations hopefully and happily redundant. But remember, if you don't learn from the past, you are condemned forever to repeat the same mistakes. Lovely to hear so many people calling in from Sweden as well. Thank you. Tag, I think is correct. Is it Tag? Just have to check with my friend category. Ted's in Walthamstow. Ted, what would you like to say?
Morning, James.
Hello, Ted.
I have a theory as to why Sweden was held up with the reverence that it was, and it more plays into your qualification policy, and that is that Sweden has regularly been held up as sort of the exemplar social democratarian right.
Yes.
And so by the same libertarian right, using Sweden as the example of the correct approach now, it's almost the ultimate trump card. How can I say Sweden is right on all these other social economic points, and then argue against myself on the fundamental points of how they've dealt with lockdown? So there's that was,
I mean, we've got a bit chicken and egg, haven't we? Because that may just be an unexpected upside, an unexpected bonus for a decision that had already been taken for the reasons we've been discussing. But yes, those of us who think that the Scandinavian model is one from which much less equal countries like ours could learn, do perhaps you kind of speculate on how the other side are going to respond to something. Maybe there is something in that. You go, well, I don't really want to go in that hard on Sweden because they've got such such generous sick pay or something like that.
But to be clear, I don't think it's a persuasive argument, but it's the kind of argument that someone who is happy to make points that they know aren't good but potentially are short-term effective. And oil hat for a second. There's also a shot to nothing argument to take by the libertarian right, because then if Sweden is wrong and they mess up, then the next time we have a social economic argument, they can say, well, Sweden were wrong on that as well. So why do we trust them on their other policies? And so I think there's a rhetorical disingenuous basis for some. That's my theory.
Yeah, I like it. Sorry, did you have something to add? We've got time.
I was just going to leave you very briefly with a prediction, because you've been making a prediction.
Yeah, of course you can. Come on, fill your boots.
I think that Johnson will get a deal. It will be worse than any deal that has been put before anybody up to this stage.
Yeah.
However, he will spin it, having promoted the idea of brinkmanship for the last week or so.
Yes.
He will spin it as him saving Britain from the EU, and he will leave office in January or February on the basis that he is the leader.
I've done it. I got Brexit done, and now I'm off, folks. I'm hearing quite a few people suggesting that he may not be long for this job. I don't know, but I mean that's as valid as any other prediction. Certainly the bit about claiming victory when all he's done is sort of avoid the most ignominious of defeats. But of course, look what we've just done. I've just fallen into the trap of talking about it like a fight. That's the whole point. The negotiations on trade are about interdependence. They're not about winning and losing. This is the Trumpian view of the world that's completely bogus, albeit seductive in the short term to people looking for something to blame their entire lives on. But interdependence. So once again, negotiating the only time in history to reduce the trading relationships between two negotiating partners. But yeah, I'll go with that, Ted. I don't know that he's going to walk the plank, though. We'll have to wait and see.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation, this is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 12 o'clock, more than 1,500 lorries are now backed up in Kent as crisis talks continue with France to get cross-channel trade back operating. French authorities have put in place a 2-day ban on travel from the UK over fears about a new strain of coronavirus. David Wells, the chief executive of Logistics UK, believes he knows why the queues are building today.
Truck drivers, knowing this was a 48-hour ban, are thinking it's going to be open tonight. Therefore, I'll head down to Dover. And we are saying to people, please don't do that until you absolutely know that the port is open and you will get through when you arrive.
The Transport Secretary is asking hauliers not to travel to the ports. The firm behind the coronavirus vaccine that's being rolled out across the UK says they are confident it will work against the new strain of the virus. BioNTech says it will be carrying out more studies just to check. Chief Executive Urs Sahin says 99% of the variant's proteins are the same as previous versions.
That means multiple sites of the virus proteins are attacked, and therefore we have scientific confidence the vaccine might protect, but we will know it only if the experiment is done, and we will need about 2 weeks from now.
The Home Secretary says there's no doubt children in England will be returning to school after the Christmas break. Scientists are investigating whether the new variant could spread more easily in children. Priti Patel says testing will be a priority.
The government wants to keep schools open, and of course we will put